This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on India Mobile Congress, Digital Inclusivity and Sustainable Development. The participants are Jitan Kumar Jain, cyber expert, and Prasoon Srivastav, journalist.
Today there is a mega event going on of the telecom sector. Everyone is participating. It is supported by the Government of India and industry body COI is hosting it. And the theme of this particular telecom event is Smart, Secure and Sustainable. Prime Minister today delivered his inaugural address at the event, and this is the fourth edition of the event, which is happening online. It is a virtual event just because of COVID-19 pandemic. So the context has been said that telecom supported entire economy. Everyone was connected to the telecom network. So how further it can be leveraged to boost the ecosystem here in India, how Indian industry can grow. So there is a lot of discussion going on at the India Mobile Congress. Mr. Jitan Jain, what is your perspective? You may have heard Prime Minister talking about use of technology for delivering various services. In fact, he also talked about leveraging it for COVID-19. So what are your perspective? What is your takeaway?
I think the prime focus of the Prime Minister's speech was to show that, the focus of Digital India is for inclusiveness and now sustainable development. How, mobile technology in India has enabled benefit for billions of dollars to reach the most deserving and poor people in the remote areas during this pandemic. And he cited example of Jam Trinity where Jandan accounts, Aadhaar-enabled payment transfer, subsidy transfers, and other benefits have, enabled poor people with the help of mobile technology to receive all these benefits sitting at home. Now, the transparent delivery of government schemes and subsidies, especially to the poor people, cutting the middlemen from in between and reducing the amount of, corruption which used to happen in India. And that, I think, was the prime focus of Prime Minister, that how this jam trinity of Aadhaar, Jandan accounts and mobile has created feeling of inclusiveness and then is driving the technology towards sustainable development in India. Now, second, he also focused, and I think somewhere down the line he didn't mention it, but I think from his speech I could make out that he had a feeling of digital divide which India is facing in this pandemic, especially in the rural areas where, urban cities are able to cope up with pandemic by offering services like online schooling on Zoom and stuff. People are working from home. But for the children in rural areas where the technological and telecom infrastructure is not that competent, I think they have had bigger challenges that how do you provide then online schooling to the people who do not even have access to technology, access to internet and access to infrastructure. And for that, he said that it is his government's commitment that in the coming 3 years, every village in India will be connected from high-speed optic fiber connectivity so that we can bridge this digital gap in the rural areas and urban areas.
Prime Minister has already been very tech savvy. He has been leveraging technology across for making communications, reaching out to people. And he has realized that internet and broadband services need to go to rural as well. Simultaneously, he has also given call for timely rollout of 5G services. So what is your take? How do you see 5G going for India? What are the kind of benefit that it will deliver to our economy? And how ready are our players to roll out this 5G?
You have to look at three things in perspective. A, that India has having this hot debate about allowing Chinese 5G technologies in India's telecom sector, and there have been a school of thought which says that this might lead to data theft concerns and Chinese technology should not be allowed in India. And then there has been a challenge that if we do not allow Chinese 5G technology, how do we then provide an alternative? Because European alternatives were very, very expensive, and there was industry lobby which was saying that Chinese technology is comparatively, financially much cheaper. So we must also take that into consideration, the viability of and cost effectiveness. But with Reliance coming up with its own 5G Indian standards, and I think recently in Indian International Telecom Union meeting also India 5G standard also got listed. And then Reliance willingness to invest and roll out Indian standard of 5G in the next 6 months. And the Prime Minister's emphasis that for 5G everybody has to come together and ensure that India takes a technological leap and we leapfrog the entire issues we have faced because of maybe we were late in 4G rollouts. But I think his willingness to provide ecosystem support to all the private players, including Reliance, to roll out an Indian version of 5G also reflects the government's willingness and commitments towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. So this will not only bring self-reliance in the sector of 5G, it will also do away with all the data theft concerns and espionage concerns of Chinese 5G in India. So I think the decks are set. India will move towards its own version of 5G.
So we see several debates going on around the Gs of the technology, means the generations of the technology. Yeah. Some people say that we should continue supporting 2G here in India. Some people argue that we should move forward to 5G and use these advanced technologies so that India can also keep pace with global developments. What is your perspective on?
For inclusiveness and sustainable development, obviously you will have to continue to provide 2G support because there are many people who do not use for smartphones. But then that population is almost around less than 10% now. So in the coming years, I think majority of the population will shift to smartphones. There may be a small percentage of population who would continue to use feature phones, and some may do it because of the lack of financial resources. Some may do it willingly because they do not want to use smartphones. So I don't think any government will do away with 2G. It will remain, I think, for at least a decade. But so far as 4G and 3G is concerned, I think we have the lifetime of a nation. Sometimes we have to take a call that if we have to look at the new data revolution and fourth industrial revolution, 5G is the need of the hour, and you cannot continue to delay 5G. And you have to take a call whether you allow Chinese 5G or you ban them and allow European and American versions of 5G, or you go for a indigenous version of 5G like we have what Reliance is offering. So in any case, I think government will have to ensure that 5G rollouts happen in India on time to ensure that we do not lag behind from the world in this data revolution.
You talked about indigenous development of technology. If you may have heard, Bharti Airtel CEO Mr. Gopal Vittal said that standalone standards, indigenously developing something may isolate India from the rest of the world. So do you read that in this context that India will be locked out from the global ecosystem? How do you see that perspective of developing technology locally and then shipping it abroad? How far will it be accepted?
I think he's trying to hint at Chinese version of 5G. It is not the global version. And he must realize that all democracies across the world now have a unanimous view that Chinese 5G technology may be cost effective, it may be competent, but it is a threat to our national sovereignty, it is a threat to our privacy. There is a threat of Chinese Communist Party using this whole 5G technological empire to turn the entire network into an espionage machine. So even if we have to pay 10% or 20% extra of the cost, even if we have to delay the rollout by a few months, in my opinion, we must go for a version of 5G which is absolutely reliable, on which you have some sort of control. And I think if International Telecom Union has accepted India's version of which is 5G-I, I'm sure more research will happen, more work will happen. But just because you find something cost effective, I don't think India should jump on that. Tomorrow, if Pakistan was to offer a much cheaper version of 5G gadgetry, I don't think India should make that choice. So we must have now, time has come to take an unequivocal view that Chinese technology is a threat to India and national security is paramount, and it must override all these carrots of cost and business benefits.
So if you see globally, there are only few players in telecom equipment space. You can name Nokia, you can name Ericsson, then there are Chinese players. Then Samsung made some stride into 4G. So if you see, there are only limited players, and the reason has been like they have their own ecosystem, they have their own financing schemes. How can Indian companies go abroad and grab that market share?
I think that would happen when this whole Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign takes reality on ground. You see, you have to look at this way. Even a country like Russia, which has got far superior technological standards if you were to compare other developing countries, even Russia has last week announced that only domestic network equipment will be allowed in Russian 5G networks. Even a communist country like Russia is not willing to allow Chinese technology to in their domestic 5G network. So US has obviously banned them. UK is saying that they will not allow them on critical network. Australia have banned them. Canada is almost taking a view where they have not banned them, but they are not allowing them. So, European countries across the world have realized that 5G is not only about connectivity and cost, it is also about security and surveillance. So when those factors take into place, I think even if Indian products are 20% less competitive or less this thing, and if they are even expensive, we must go for Indian products. Till the time we don't have them, obviously we can import them from reliable countries, definitely countries which are friendly to us, which have some sort of accountability and democratic process. So I don't think we should look at this 5G network and 5G decision solely from the perspective of technology and cost. You have to look at this prism of your national security.
You are right that there is security perspective and nation security is paramount. And even Telecom Minister Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad highlighted this, that we welcome FDI, but nation security is paramount. That will stay. My question is that how can Indian companies compete with global giants when they are already established, they have already made their strides, the clients are set, the market is captured, government have been supporting them in terms of finance, they have their whole full ecosystem. There will be challenges around cost competitiveness of Indian telecom equipment.
I think we should ignore those challenges. That is a cost we must as a society should be willing to pay for our security. This is not of a cost of equipment, this is a cost of our own security. Now, second, even Telecom Minister was saying that India is open to FDI. We are open to all sorts of investments, but we are not open to those investments which are here for data theft and espionage. It's as simple as that, and that is the reason why India has gone on to ban 224 Chinese apps, that you are welcome here to do business here in India, but if you are into the business of data theft and espionage, India is not a country for you today. The government will come down with iron hand and throw away all these shady business companies. So I think openness to business and securing and safeguarding your citizen interest are two things we can coexist. and this is what is happening in India right now. Second, Indian companies, you see, if Reliance was to have a successful 5G rollout in India, I'm sure there are many countries where Reliance would like to go and invest, and those countries would be looking for Indian versions of 5G and would looking to allow and adopt those Indian standards. There are several countries in the world which are looking for alternatives beyond Chinese 5G, and I'm sure that India does have a business opportunity here.
That is the point, that there are several countries that are looking for 5G, where India can make its own space. Even Defense Secretary Mr. Ajay Kumar said that Indian technologies can be adopted in developing world, where people need low-cost solutions and reliable solutions.
You see, the Indian version of 5G is not coming from a new startup or an unknown name. It is coming from one of the most powerful business houses in India, one of the most shining jewels of technological innovation in India, Reliance Industries. So if Reliance was to launch 5G version and is willing to deploy their version on their entire telecom network in India, I'm sure it has a successful rollout for a year. There will be many countries in the world willing to adopt that version.
Government has also announced that they will be providing 12,000 crore worth of subsidies for telecom equipment manufacturing in India. So that is coming as a big moral booster for telecom equipment makers, that they can venture out. And
that is the sort of support I think every country in the world is today providing. There are some countries which do it open-handedly by providing interest-free loans like in China and openly funding the gadgetry to reduce the market cost and capture the market. Or there are then countries like America which gives grant for research and development. So if we were to subsidize on startups in terms of export subsidies or stuff, I'm sure it will help Indian companies to go out and capture the world market. And second, you also have to see all this technology like Jan Dhan or Aadhaar or mobile, Prime Minister said, will also be used in the COVID vaccination today to map out the population which requires the first preference in giving the medication, keeping a track record, then allowing certain people with those vaccination to travel and stuff. So these technological development, if you look at the complete ecosystem today, at a point where from innovation we are driving towards inclusiveness, from business we are now going towards sustainable development. So I think in the next 2-3 coming years, the people in the remote parts of India, the rural population, the poor people, the people who are at the last leg of society will be the biggest beneficiary of technological innovation and revolution in India.
In fact, we have seen how Arogya Setu has played an important role in letting people know who are the COVID-infected patient around them. One can at least have a preliminary cross-check whether he is prone to the infection or not. Definitely, technology has got a good role to play in curbing COVID-19. What are the extra miles that government needs to walk? Because telecom sector is also making effort. Government has shown intent to provide subsidy. But where are the other things like spectrum is one case where telecom operators are demanding that need a spectrum to run and try the technology, but still it is not available.
In this entire game of allocation of spectrum, I think government must consider that now there is a time that we must seriously look at the health of our public sector undertakings like MTNL and BSNL. Now we have to evaluate where are our public sector enterprises and public sector telecom operator in this entire telecom space today. Should they be given some sort of market protection in rural areas? Should they be allowed to have some preferences, or it should be an open market, or let private and public sector operator to compete among themselves and government should not interfere? I think that is a policy call government will now have to take, because if public telecom provider is not able to make its own space today, I think it will be very difficult for them to survive in the coming years.
That how do you see the overall intellectual property space for 5G in India? If you see, Mr. Mukesh Ambani today talked about semiconductor challenge also. He said that semiconductor can be developed. But we have been seeing that till date, we don't have any semiconductor fabrication plant here in India.
It is critical to have your indigenous telecom equipment for the larger interest of national security. And to be very honest, for all fabrication units, for all semiconductor industries, government did try some policy initiatives by providing them SEZ zones, by providing, mentorship schemes, by providing subsidies. But I think it would be driven by the market demand. And I think right now, Indian industry does not have enough legroom or funds available to invest into the research in the semiconductor industry. I think that government will have to widen its ambit and resources in providing support to the players who are willing to invest in the research and development and for semiconductor industry and fabrication.
We expect India Mobile Congress to come out with some kind of positive resolution. Thank you, Mr. Jitenjan.
You were listening to a discussion on India Mobile Congress, Digital Inclusivity and Sustainable Development. The participants were Jitan Kumar Jain, cyber expert, and Prasoon Srivastav, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our website newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.